After last night's obliteration at the hand of the Miami Marlins, it's time to rip off the Band-Aid and DFA Aaron Bummer. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today, a production of the Believe Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. That wasn't fun. Braves got beat last night 12-0 in Miami. We saw the Braves pitching debut of Jorge Mateo, who was one of the more effective relievers or pitchers for Atlanta yesterday, throwing a scoreless 8th inning with 1 hit allowed. But the reason he was eligible to pitch in the game was because Aaron Bummer got absolutely obliterated in the 5th inning. He was in so early, Ritchie only went 4. We're going to get to Ritchie in a minute. There's a little more nuanced thoughts when it comes to Ritchie. But for Aaron Bummer, it's time for him to go. So if you weren't watching the game, one, lucky you, but Aaron Bummer gives up 6 runs on 3 hits and 5 walks. And the distribution of these is just as bad as you can imagine, right? He opens the inning with a 5-pitch walk to Kyle Stowers. He gets down 3-0. He grooves a sinker, and he's lucky that Kyle Stowers did not swing. And then he throws another just way out of the zone. None of the 4 balls were remotely close to the strike zone. Then he actually gets an out. Owen Casey lines out to center. It's not a hard hit ball. It's like 94.3, but it was a sweeper that was supposed to go out of the zone to Casey and stayed on the outer third. Casey came pretty close to getting it. He just barely missed it. And then he walks Jacob Marcy on 5 pitches. One of them was a strike, right? He throws a terrible sweeper down and away that Marcy swings at for some reason. And when Marcy realized how far outside it was, he just kind of like says, okay, just keep doing that. And keeps doing that. Throws a bunch of pitches out of the zone. Jacob Marcy walks. Connor Norby then walks on 4 straight. And a little, not credit to Bummer, but to point out, some of these pitches were pretty close down. They were over the plate, but down. A couple of these were decently close to the zone. Bases are now loaded. Then he walks Joe Mack on 5 pitches to walk in a run. And one of these is a called strike, sinker down and away. One of these is an elevated sinker above the zone that just barely misses. But for the most part, another non-competitive at-bat. And then I guess feeling the pressure to throw a strike, he gets 1-1 on Javier Sanoja. And he throws a 4-seamer on the inner third, and it gets obliterated. 105 off the bat, grand slam to left field. Okay? There is your first hit of the inning, and this is the 5th run that's come across. And then Xavier Edwards gets a 1-0 sinker in the bottom third, and he hits a home run. Second hit of the inning, a second home run. Then Aaron Bummer gives up a single. He hangs a curveball in the zone, and Liam Hicks is just on top of it. It's a hard hit ball. It's 103 miles an hour. But it's a ground ball through the right side, and he's on first. From there, he gets a ground ball for a force out. He then walks Kyle Stowers again. And then he gets a strikeout of Owen Casey to end the inning finally. Mercifully, I'll say that. 42 pitches in the 5th inning. 16 were strikes. 6 runs on 3 hits and 5 walks. Of the 3 hits, all of them are hard hit. 2 of them are home runs. Aaron Bummer's ERA is now 7.63. And you're at the point where it's only the 5th time in the month he's pitched. He's allowed 8 runs on 5 innings in the month of May. It's through May 18th, they used him 5 times. If you're running a 6-man rotation, which we'll get to in a minute, you can't afford to have a reliever in the pen that you don't use. And Aaron Bummer was that guy. They were not willing to use him. And if you look at what he does, the reason that he's here is no longer a thing. Aaron Bummer is in Atlanta in the bullpen to get ground balls and to get lefties out. Lefties are hitting 273 off of him this year. And I know that's a small sample size. I talk so much about sample size when it comes to evaluating anything really, but especially relievers. But he's given up 9 hits, including 2 homers, 6 walks, and 7 strikeouts to lefties. Righties, his whip against lefties is 188. He's allowing almost 2 runners an inning against lefties. Righties are hitting 290 off of him with a 177 whip. But what are we doing here? We're not getting the lefties out. And then when you look at, he's okay at ground balls. He's below 50%, but he's, 47.9% ground ball rate, which is very, very much not where he's been in the past. Even last year, when he struggled to a 3.81 ERA, he was 94th percentile in ground balls, and he was 99th percentile in barrel rate at 3.2%. This year, I'm honestly amazed. I have never seen a guy that had a really, really good ground ball rate, an above average ground ball rate, but still be as awful at preventing barrels as Aaron Bummer has been this year. 12.5% barrel rate allowed by Aaron Bummer is 10th percentile in baseball. He fell from 99th percentile to 10th percentile. Some of that is his hard hit rate. His hard hit rate is 52.1%. That is 3rd percentile in baseball. His average exit velocity is 92.9 miles an hour. 1st percentile in baseball. The only things that are remotely red on his StatCast card is ground balls and an above average walk rate of only 7.6%. I know that Aaron Bummer's making $9.5 million. The CBT hit on that is 6.5. I know he's making $9.5 million. That's a guaranteed deal. The Braves have to pay that money no matter what. But it is time for the Braves to go ahead and rip off the Band-Aid and designate him for assignment. I just don't see a situation where he's going to be additive to the team's success the rest of the year. Last weekend was a great example. If they had any faith or trust in Aaron Bummer, you could have put him in for the 8th inning instead of asking Bryce Elder to face a team for the 4th time. It's not what they did. They went ahead and they asked Bryce Elder to go out there a 4th time. They said that is better than sending Aaron Bummer out there. If you have a better reliever than Bryce Elder in that spot, it's possible, I'm not going to say likely, but I'm going to say possible, that you can find a way to win that game on Saturday. I just don't see any way at this point where if you're already committed to spending that money anyway, rip off the Band-Aid. I fully expect there to be a roster move today. Maybe he is feeling some sort of shoulder soreness or something and they can get away with an IL stint that probably just doesn't end. He probably eventually gets moved to the 60 and then just at the end of the season, the contract runs out and he walks. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's just designated for assignment. Nobody's going to claim him because of the money owed. They would inherit the contract if they claim him. Once he passes through waivers, Atlanta could outright him to Gwinnett. He could elect free agency in that case, or they could just release him. But at this point, there's just no way to keep Aaron Mummer on the roster. Call up Victor Medeiros. Atlanta traded for him from the Angels in April, and he's been working in Gwinnett this year. And honestly, I mean, he was a 5-pitch guy last year for the Angels. Sinker, slider, sweeper, change, splitter. He can work in relief. He can work as a starter. Since he's been in Gwinnett this year, he's thrown 21 in the third innings in a mix between starting and relieving with a 2.53 RA. He struck out 19 in the 21 in the third innings. He's given up 2 home runs, but he's not been terrible. He can give you some length out of the pen. You can, and you still don't answer the lefty relief thing. Who's your next lefty reliever behind Dylan Lee? Dylan Dodd has reverse splits. He's better against righties than lefties. So you still need to find somebody who can reliably get lefties out. But at the very least, you would have somebody that you can use, that you can actually throw in a game without it needing to be a 5-run lead first or a 7-run lead or whatever. In just a minute, let's talk about J.R. Ritchie. Rough outing last night. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a roster move here or what you can do to improve him. We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, this episode's brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom-infused coffees are the delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack's a great way to try all of their products and flavors. You get 9 IQ bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. And all IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. And their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. Right now, IQ Bar is offering our podcast listeners 20% off of all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64,000. Messages and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Okay, J.R. Ritchie. Listen, I got a lot of flack last time when I talked about J.R. Ritchie. People thought I was too rough on the kid. I disagree. I thought it was very rational and clear when I discussed here are the things that he's not doing that well. He's not being very efficient with his outings, and he's still struggling to miss bats. I didn't say he sucked. I didn't say you gotta, the kid's never going to work out. I just said, hey, here are the things that the data says he's struggling with. The problem here, we saw those same things again last night. Ritchie allows 6 runs in his 4 innings, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. And the struggles really didn't start until the 4th inning. He walked the tightrope in the first 3 innings. He allowed 1 run on 3 singles and a hit by pitch. 48 pitches for the first 3 innings. In the 4th inning is where you really saw that struggle to get whiffs come bite him. He opens the inning with a single to Kyle Stowers. And he was down 2-1. And so he comes into the zone with a curveball, and Stowers gets it. Bottom third, it wasn't a bad pitch. Maybe not where you want to leave a curveball. And he had opened the at-bat with the curveball in that exact same spot. So he went back to the same spot. And I did notice going into this inning, he was throwing more curveballs, and that is his best whiff pitch. He was throwing more curveballs in the outing up until the 4th inning. And so it really kind of feels like they were hunting for more whiffs as well. I'm not just making this up. They were cognizant of he's got to be able to get more whiffs and get out of innings. So he does that. Then he gets a strikeout of Owen Casey. 5 pitches, none of them are in the zone, but Casey chases a ton, and it works. He throws 2 pitches down and in, a changeup and a slider. He throws a cutter that breaks in on Casey's hands. Casey swings through it. Then he tries to throw that cutter again. And this is a trend that I've noticed of kind of going back to pitches. He tries to throw that same cutter again. It's a little bit closer to the edge of the plate. He doesn't quite hit the same spot. And so Casey fouls it off. And then he throws the curveball, but he drops it below the zone and gets the strikeout. He then hits Jacob Marcy. First pitch cutter. It's 90 miles an hour, pegs him with it. He then walks Connor Norby on 6 pitches. And the first strike is a 2-0 pitch. One of the themes here is he's behind on a lot of these guys because he's not reliably in the zone enough in this inning. So he's down 2-0. He throws a sinker upper third, which is an odd placement for a sinker. He gets the called strike. Norby's taken the whole way. Then he throws another ball, and this is a sinker way above the zone. Then he throws a slider down and away, but in the zone. You typically are going to want this pitch to go out of the zone so that even if Norby makes contact, it's probably not very good contact. It stays down and away, and it gets fouled off. And then 3-2, he goes with that curveball out of the zone, ball, walks him. Joe Mack then comes up and gets a curveball in the bottom third of the zone and rips it to Ozzie. It goes off of Ozzie into the outfield, 2-run score. Then he gets a strikeout. Like, he's so close to getting out of this. It's a 5-pitch strikeout. He gets the foul tip on a curveball in the zone, gets the strikeout. He's close to getting, he's close to getting out of this. That's 2 outs. And then Xavier Edwards, not bad at bat here by Ritchie. Called strike on a slider down and away. Foul ball on a changeup off the plate. On the black, away. 2 balls. And then again, Ritchie goes back to that same changeup spot. It's a little tiny bit lower, but it's in essence that same idea. Changeup on the black, away. Edwards hits the ground ball. It goes to Kim. It takes a funny hop on Kim. And Edwards beats the throw to first. Connor Norby scores. That's a 4th run in. And then when Liam Hicks comes up, this is the fly ball that Mike Yastrzemski should have caught that knuckles on him kind of late. He should have caught it. But this is a 4-seamer up and in the zone, and Liam Hicks turns on it and sends it to right. 2 more runs score. He finally gets the ground ball and he gets out of it. And even there, when he gets the ground ball to get out of it, it's a 98-mile-an-hour ground ball to first. But the theme of the game for Ritchie, and what really got worse in that 4th inning, was his inability, for the most part, to get the whiff. He had a strikeout in there on a curveball that a guy chased. But for the most part, when he threw the curveball in the zone, they were hitting it. When he threw it out of the zone, they were taking it. And the issue here for Ritchie is overall, he had a 42% zone rate. 42% of his pitches were in the strike zone. But for the most part, he wasn't able to reliably get them to chase, honestly, other than really like the cutter inside and the changeup were really the only pitches they were chasing on. And those are the 2 pitches he threw in the zone the least. And they were actually working. But you saw it was the things that the changes from times through the order. he wasn't sequencing well enough, I think. And some of that goes back on Drake Baldwin behind the plate. Let's be clear here. But he ramped up the slider usage the second time through and cut back on the changeup four seam. He threw a little bit more cutters. To me, it felt like a very specific game plan of we're going to try to get whiffs on the curveball. And he had 10 total whiffs in this game. Half of those came on the curveball, but it took 42 swings to get the 10 whiffs. He had a 25% CSW. He was getting some called strikes as well, but all in all, Ritchie just kind of wasn't really able to miss bats. He also wasn't throwing the sinker. He threw 6 of them in his 83 pitches. I want to be very, very clear here, because there are going to be people who are going to be mad just like they were mad last week. I think J.R. Ritchie is a talented baseball player. I think he has the right mentality, the right sense of self and confidence to be successful. I think he has the pitch mix and the ability to be a starting pitcher in Atlanta for a long time. I don't know if he needs to continue to be in the rotation right now. And that, again, that is nothing against Ritchie's ability long term. What I really want to see, and maybe this is something that they choose to keep him up and they work on in the majors, I want to see Ritchie figure out another way to get whiffs. And I want to see him, he's been known for pretty decent control. I want to see some of that control improve in the majors. I don't know if this means minimizing four-seamers for more sinkers so that he has something that moves a little more and he can minimize the hard contact and all of that. Even in that regard, his average exit velocity yesterday was 90.2, which isn't terrible, but it's also not great. 7 hard hit balls. We usually talk about with Ritchie, the saving grace of any of these outings that he does is he's sitting at like 80 mile an hour average exit velocity. He just doesn't give up a lot of hard contact. Wasn't the case last night. And if they choose to keep him up, okay, great. We've got to work on the ability to get whiffs. He drew 5 swings on the slider last night. He got 1 whiff. When he was a prospect, when he was a draft prospect, the conversation was he had a plus slider. We have not seen that slider. Is that something where the TJ Monster ate it? Is that what happened? You can absolutely make changes in the majors. We saw Spencer Schwellenbach figure some stuff out, added pitches, figured some stuff out, like around the time of his 5th, 6th start in the majors. I'm not saying that J.R. Ritchie's a lost cause or anything. People are still going to be mad at me in the comments about it, but I'm not. But what I am saying is this current version of J.R. Ritchie, given the way this Atlanta roster is constructed, given the fact that you already have somebody or multiple somebodies who are not going incredibly deep into some of their games, you've really got to figure out either a way to get him able to go deeper into games, or you've got to let him go back to the minors and go back to the 5-man rotation. You're halfway through this stretch of 13 games in 13 days. So maybe you option him back down and you run with a 5-man, which would mean Grant Holmes is in your rotation unless you get to stretch Didier Fuentes back out. And that's not great. I understand that. We did see more growth and success out of Holmes on Sunday. And I think you can get by with one person who is prone to shorter outings in your rotation. You can't always do it with 2, especially when your bullpen's already short. You're going to get reinforcements when you get rid of Bummer. But the things that J.R. Ritchie was good at minimizing hard contact has been there. Getting ground balls, 49th percentile. It's not been there. Throwing strikes and avoiding walks. He has a walk rate of 16.1%. It's 5th percentile in baseball. His strikeout rate's only 18.3%. There's a 2.2% difference in his strikeout rate and his walk rate. He's not getting a ton of whiffs. He's not getting a ton of chase. And I think you finally kind of saw the actual stats on the field catch up to what a lot of the estimators were saying. Right? Going into yesterday's game, J.R. Ritchie had a 3.32 ERA. He had a 4.54 expected ERA, and he had a FIP of 6.14. Because he's walking a lot of guys, he's allowing a lot of contact, and he's not getting a ton of strikeouts. As of this morning, his ERA is now 4.91. His expected ERA, 4.63. So by that measure, he's been a little bit unlucky, and that is typically down to the hard contact. If you don't allow a ton of hard contact, but runs have scored against you, your expected ERA is probably going to be a little bit lower. And his FIP is actually down to a 5.72. He is pitching like a number 5. But Atlanta has 5 starting pitchers already. So I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm wondering, do they? Do they send him down? Or do they double down on working on tweaking his slider, finding other ways for him to throw more strikes, whether it's through pitch usage, and get more whiffs and more chase through sequencing, and try to improve that breaking ball. The changeup's been pretty decent at not allowing a ton of hard contact, but from a run value perspective, it's been -3. Like, the changeup, I stand corrected. I just pulled the numbers. The changeup's average exit velocity allowed is 92.2 miles an hour. That's the pitch I was always crediting for the soft contact. The sinker is the one that he's not allowing hard contact on. The sinker has an average exit velocity allowed this year of 81.7 miles an hour and an average launch angle of -13 degrees, meaning just about everything it's coming off that bat, or it's coming off that pitch, is on the ground. Why do you throw it 6 times last night? Sequencing is an issue. Getting whiffs is an issue. And again, I'm not saying that the kid's a lost cause, but I'm saying they've got to figure something out. They've got to figure out either getting him in the zone more with improved stuff that can miss bats, sequencing, utilization, something. Because what is happening now, and again, it's not killing the Braves here. The Braves didn't lose that game because of J.R. Ritchie. They lost that game because the offense was shut out again. But the offense, even had the offense just been okay, they wouldn't have come anywhere close to winning that game because Ritchie put them in a hole, and then Aaron Bummer blasted that hole all the way down to the core of the earth. Sorry this isn't a more positive episode. I intended to just go about 15, 20 minutes because we have an earlier game today, and we just kind of kept talking about Ritchie and Bummer there. But we'll have a scouting report out before that mid-afternoon start. Martin Perez on the mound today. And then we're back tomorrow. Something fun if you want to check it out. A little bit of a palate cleanser. Over on Braves Today, yesterday, I dropped a story, an alternate history, talking about had Atlanta never traded for Matt Olson. Going off of recent reporting that we heard from Ken Rosenthal, that after they were told they weren't going to get Freddie, they looked at other options like signing Anthony Rizzo or moving Adam Duvall from the outfield back to first base before they decided to trade for Matt Olson. Bended the whole Atlanta blindsided Freddie Freeman's representation with the Olson trade. Rosenthal reported they were told by Casey Close that they were out on Freeman. And so then they went and figured out some other stuff. They tried to sign Rizzo. They looked at moving Duvall, and then they decided to make the Olson trade. So there you go. Fun little alternate time timeline there of you have Shea Langoliers behind the plate. Can you move William Contreras to first base? And then when Drake Baldwin comes up, what does that look like? So interesting. Go check that out. I really enjoyed writing that, and it's a ton of fun. But that'll do it for Braves Today. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time on Braves Today.